Remember Michelle Obama saying if Trump won, women would suffer.
If we don't get this election right, your wife, your daughter, your mother, we as women will become collateral damage to your rage.
Trump's pretty much already president, so let's check in on Michelle.
Attention, everybody. We are full of here today. So honored to have you.
Rumors continue to escalate for the Obamas. Hopefully they can settle it like men.
We never thought Michelle Obama, known for healthy eating and inspiring quotes, would be talked over by Jesse Watters and Greg Gutfeld, but that's what happened. Watters had his usual smug smile, and Gutfeld was full of sarcasm, making Michelle look shocked and upset, like someone canceled her workout and book tours at the same time. So, what did they say that made her image take a hit so quickly? Trust us, you'll want popcorn for this extra salty.
Michelle Obama's new podcast is off to a slow start, ranked at number 34 on Spotify. In her defense, most people don't like her. Michelle Obama surprised fans on her new podcast by saying her pet peeve about her husband is that he's chronically late. For example, we're still waiting on him to admit he's from Kenya. And as for Barack's pet peeve about Michelle, he's mad that she keeps leaving the toilet seat up. When she cleans it. When she cleans it.
Oh no, Michelle. Obama probably thought she left the White House behind for a calm life full of big book deals, Netflix shows, and fancy brunches with endless avocado toast and light, easy conversation, but things didn't go that way. Jesse, Watters and Greg Gutfeld had different plans. They basically said, not while we're around. Then, like a well-rehearsed team, they strongly criticized the former First Lady politely, but in the same smug way a cat acts when it drops a dead bird at your feet.
Michelle Obama looks proud of her country again, which is weird because Biden's about to turn the White House over to Hitler. Everybody should be scared, right? At the Obama house, it's Christmas as usual. The only thing keeping Michelle up at night is what to stuff in Barack's stocking.
Who's the hardest to shop for?
He is. Oh
he?
my gosh. Yeah, I mean, he's just a boy, you know? I mean, he just doesn't do much. He golfs, and there's only so many golf balls you can get a dude.
Right.
I'm trying to, like, get him clothes that he wouldn't buy, you know?
Okay.
Because he's also cheap.
Well, who is the best gift giver out of you guys?
Probably me.
Okay.
You know, I think I am, because I'm actually paying attention to everyone.
Ah,
you know?
that is the
I'm,
trick.
like, listening.
Michelle just said her husband's cheap, doesn't listen, and chases balls all day like a little boy.
Before we go on, don't forget to subscribe if you're liking this breakdown. It all started when Michelle did what she's known for, sharing vague, inspirational quotes while wearing a $3,000 outfit that's supposed to seem relatable. She's back on tour because apparently, people still want to hear about her childhood in Chicago, her fit arms, and how she never really wanted to be First Lady, but ended up creating one of the most carefully managed life stories on Instagram.
Michelle thinks American men suck.
Let me warn you, your rage does not exist in a vacuum. If we don't get this election right, your wife, your daughter, your mother, we as women will become collateral damage to your rage. To the women listening, we have every right to demand that the men in our lives do better by us. We have to use our voices to make these choices clear to the men that we love. Our lives are worth more than their anger and disappointment.
What's that pitter-patter sound I'm hearing in the background? It's the footsteps of Barack running to vote for Trump.
So of course, Jesse Watters started his show with what felt like a full-on roast, even though it was dressed up as political talk. He looked like he'd been waiting for this moment ever since Michelle said, "When they go low, we go high." Looking back, that quote basically meant, "When they insult us, We respond with a fancy Netflix show and a carefully planned photo shoot.
Living under a dictator, how women will survive the next 4 years, but she never asked. Michelle put down some ground rules for the interview. After the biggest election in the history of the country, her words, not mine, Michelle said, "Don't ask me about politics." Michelle's only allowed to be asked about her new book, her new Netflix show, and her new fruit juice brand. Not very maha. Michelle's got to push product. It's the new golden age, remember? It's almost like she's saying life goes on. The whole democracy is on the line was just a...
Jesse leaned back in his chair like he was about to drop something big and said, "Michelle Obama wants you to think she's just like you, but she lives in an $11 million mansion in Martha's Vineyard, drinks fancy kombucha, and probably doesn't remember gas prices from 2007. Boom, no warning, just straight to the point." He called out her wealthy lifestyle, saying it doesn't exactly match her everyday person image. But Jesse didn't stop there. He criticized Michelle's recent speech, where she said democracy is fragile. Jesse laughed and said, "Yeah, democracy is fragile when she's not the one in charge." He joked that it was totally fine when her husband was president, but now it's falling apart like a game of Jenga in a storm. Then Greg Gutfeld joined in on the five, clearly ready to throw in his own jabs. He called Michelle's comments about the 2024 election Instagram therapy, saying she sounds like a self-help audiobook recorded mid-flight on a private jet, saying a lot of words without much meaning. He joked it was like a podcast made by fortune cookies. The roast kept going. Greg made fun of how Michelle's image has changed from someone who didn't want to be First Lady to a political Oprah with strong arms. He rolled his eyes and said, "She's everywhere, award shows, talk shows. Netflix probably has her next role lined up in a climate change documentary where she whispers over slow-motion videos of melting glaciers."
Like, who's consulting them on this stuff?
Yeah. It's
a woman, probably, also.
It's a gay man. Nothing wrong with that, by the way, Tyrus. The men who are the real danger aren't the criminals or the illegal aliens. It's the guys that don't vote the way you want them to.
The ignorance that she projected, as if the men are the only ones angry in the house.
And just when it seemed like things couldn't get more petty, Jesse took another shot. This time at Michelle's hints about 2024. She says she's not running for president. He said, but she's doing everything but officially announcing it. Books, check. Tours, check. He joked that she's even talking about the Constitution while wearing designer clothes. What's next? A movie musical where she plays herself, and a CGI version of Barack shows up. Greg laughed so hard he nearly fell out of his chair. Honestly, if Michelle did run, Jesse joked her slogan could be something like "reluctantly yours" or "still better than Joe," and yet kind of hit hard. For years, Michelle has acted like politics is beneath her, while slowly building one of the most polished presidential brands since the Kennedys. She's like Oprah, Obama, and Beyonce all rolled into one long motivational speech. Jesse wasn't done. "She has more fans than some religions," he said. "And what does she do with it? Sells books that make her sound like America's guilt-tripping stepmom." Greg added, "She's not relatable. She's like an Instagram filter. And the media treats her like she invented vegetables." Then came the vegetable jokes. Jesse brought up Michelle's famous White House garden, saying she acted like planting some zucchinis solved childhood obesity, while kids were choking down kale sticks and begging for pizza to come back.
Michelle's been busy working on a new podcast, and so far, it's been a flop. The first 2 episodes have been up all day and only gotten a few thousand views on YouTube. Half of them are probably primetime producers. But still, Michelle's spilling the family secrets, like how Barry gets on her nerves. Listen.
Barack, he had to adjust to what on time was.
Because he was on that island time.
Well, but, I've got this husband who's like, when it's time to leave, it's 3 o'clock, he's getting up and going.
Greg nodded seriously and added, "Never forget what she did to school lunches. She turned Taco Tuesday into a broccoli nightmare." But on that Thursday, they weren't just criticizing Michelle's policies, they were targeting her whole image, the polished, picture-perfect version of Michelle Obama that shows up every couple of years like a royal portrait. "You ever notice how Michelle always talks about her struggles?" Jesse asked, but she never mentions the book deals, the private jets, or the Netflix contracts. At some point, it's not about overcoming hardship, it's just good business. Greg agreed, saying she's made being a victim into a brand. Michelle Obama is like the Marvel universe of inspirational struggle. There's always a sequel. And it's always GHOSTWRITTEN. Then they went after her repeated claims about the Constitution being fragile. Jessie gave a smirk and said it's funny how the Constitution only seems fragile when someone she doesn't like might win. It seemed totally fine when Barack got elected or when Joe Biden campaigned from his basement. Greg jumped in, saying, Michelle wants democracy to be free as long as it votes her way. If not, it suddenly becomes fragile, outdated, or something written by powdered-wiggering old men. And yet, she has no problem quoting that same Constitution when it supports her point.
It's official. President Obama is scared. How do you know? He's getting desperate. On Sunday, he said sexism is hurting Hillary's White House bid. Yeah, sexism, because she's a woman. This from some no-name guy who stole a woman's job 8 years ago. Remember that? Everyone knew Hillary. No one knew him, yet he just cut in front of her. Why? Sexism, obviously. And back then, being the first black, Trump being the first female. Lucky for them, no transgendered Native American was running, or both of their clocks would have been cleaned. But whining about sexism reveals Obama knows Hillary's in trouble. When all else fails, blame patriarchy. Still, it's weird that you're sexist for not voting for Hillary because she's a woman, but it's okay to vote for Hillary because she's a...
Then they went after her Netflix career. Greg joked, Michelle left the White House and thought, you know what America needs? A documentary of me staring out windows dramatically. Jessie added, yeah, and she narrates everything like, it's a murder mystery. As I watched the sunrise, I wondered, could broccoli really change the world? No, Michelle, it can't. Next, they called out what they saw as hypocrisy. Jessie said, she talks about climate change but flies on private jets. And complains about inequality while making millions from book deals. And we're just supposed to applaud like trained seals. Greg jumped on that too, saying Michelle acts like she's above politics, but almost everything she says is a hidden political message dressed up as a yoga quote. When they go low, we go high. Come on, you live in a mansion with ocean views. The criticism didn't stop there. When Michelle said she was afraid about the future, Greg got fired up. Oh, she's scared. You know what scares me? Rich people pretending they're about to be oppressed. He said Michelle has more protection than a James Bond villain, but wants us to believe she's worried about someone in a red hat from Iowa. Jessie wrapped it up by pointing out the irony. Michelle talks about losing hope while making millions on her third book tour. Must be hard to stay hopeful when your assistant forgets to restock the gluten-free water, he said.
Because her husband doesn't really like people, doesn't know how to talk to them, and doesn't even really care.
When a girlfriend comes to visit, it's usually like, you gotta stay for 2 days because it's going to take us
so much
2
time to come to
check up. Now Barack's come in, he's come out, and he's like, y'all still talking? He'll sit down for 5 minutes, be like, how are the boys? And the flip side of my husband, right? Because he golfs, and golfing takes as long as the first session of our, it takes 5 hours to golf. He'll golf with his buddies, come back, and be like, how's X? He's good. It's like, what'd y'all talk about? Nothing.
Then came the grand finale. Greg asked, do you think Michelle Obama even knows how much a gallon of milk costs? Jessie quickly replied, of course she probably has it stitched onto a fancy pillow in her pantry. So she can say she's still connected to regular people. And just like that, Jesse Watters and Greg Gutfeld had spent 3,000 words tearing into Michelle Obama like she tried to steal their lunch money back in school. They didn't just question her opinions, they picked apart her entire public image. They took the carefully built Michelle Obama brand, perfectly packaged and polished, and roasted it until it looked like a Thanksgiving turkey. But it didn't stop there. They moved on to her latest rebrand, Michelle 3.0, or maybe 4.0, or maybe 4.0. It's hard to keep track when every version comes with a new hairstyle, a soft-focused documentary team, and a speech about healing America from a luxury couch most people can't even pronounce. Greg lost it over her recent podcast appearance. She was talking about emotional labor and holding space. While Greg joked he was just wondering if that meant hiring a stylist and sipping espresso, he scoffed and said Michelle acts like carrying the nation's emotional weight is her full-time job. Lady, he said, your toughest decision today was figuring out which silk blouse matched your daily affirmation.
Even if they run Michelle. According to a new poll, Michelle Obama isn't as strong a Democratic candidate against former President Donald Trump as many Dems would have you believe. In a hypothetical matchup, my favorite kind, Trump wins with 47% of the vote compared to Michelle Obama's 44. I guess some of the kids whose school lunches she ruined are finally old enough to vote. Remember that?
Jesse didn't stop there. He pointed out how, every few weeks, Michelle gives another vague TED Talk-style message about America saying things like we need unity, we must listen, and we should elevate voices. Jesse joked that it sounds like she's just reading quotes from a scented candle. Their criticism of her polished, brand-like activism was sharp. Greg said Michelle wants to be seen as the nation's caring mother, but only from a $100,000 kitchen while sipping a green smoothie that costs more than most people's rent. Jesse added, "You're not a revolutionary if every protest comes with a photo op and an assistant carrying your collegiate water." Then they went after her habit of turning big events tragedies, elections, social issues into Michelle Obama moments. Jesse joked, a butterfly lands on a ballot box in Michigan, and she's suddenly writing a poem about hope. Greg nodded, saying the media treats everything she says like it's sacred, framing her every word in gold. And that was their main point. Michelle Obama isn't just wealthy and well-spoken. She's been made into someone no one dares criticize. Even when she says nothing, people cheer. So, Jesse and Greg saw it as their mission to bring her down from that pedestal, one sarcastic joke at a time.
Right now, Michelle is having her Hillary moment. Barry had his 8 years, so Michelle's demanding her time to shine. Michelle's on a roll, and now she's center stage.
The woman who needs no introduction, for real, Michelle Obama!
We have to be honest about real marriage and the work that it takes to build a life with another person. It's like, oh, hashtag relationship goals, and I'm like, I was mad at him in that picture.
Michelle has a Netflix special with Oprah, and when Oprah taps you, that means it's your time. The Obamas know that. It was Oprah who was the first big name to support Barry's run for the White House. So what does this mean? Well, for one, it means Michelle has another book, and she wants the world to know it's her world now, that she, not Barack, is the real star.
In the end, Jesse and Greg's message was clear. If Michelle Obama really wants to be the moral voice of America, she should step outside her bubble and remember that most people don't own Pelotons or start their mornings quoting Brené Brown over brunch. Maybe real leadership isn't about sharing deep-sounding quotes from a beach house balcony, but about showing up when no cameras are around. One thing's for sure, while much of the media still praises everything she does, Jesse Watters and Greg Gutfeld aren't impressed. From her healthy eating campaigns to her podcast pep talks, they tore down her polished public image with sharp, sarcastic precision. Whether Michelle's planning a political run or just buying another mansion, her carefully built image just took a serious hit. And if she wasn't thinking about rebranding before, this roast might make her rethink the whole relatable role model idea.